everyone, I'm Elise Thompson Richards, Editor-in-Chief of Food Engineering. In this interview, I chat with Dharma Prime, Senior Controls Engineer for Concept Systems, in recognition of International Women in Engineering Day. Prime discusses her college experience, her interest in controls engineering, and the importance of mentoring. Let's get into it. Hello, Dharma. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
And so I'd love to open our conversation by getting to know you a little bit better. What drew you to engineering and the STEM field?
Yeah, so I was actually having this conversation with one of my coworkers earlier. I think someone just picked me out in middle school. I was maybe 13 and said, "Hey, I think you'd be a really good engineer." I was already interested in math and hands-on troubleshooting and problem solving at that point. So, mechanical engineering was a great fit, and I haven't looked back.
And so I'd also love to hear about your educational experience. What were your classes like? What was your class makeup like? What was it like going through the mechanical engineering program?
Yeah, so I graduated from the mechanical engineering program at Oregon State University. I also had a computer science minor, and the classes overall were awesome. We had really great professors across the board. A lot of the coursework, even early on in the freshman introductory classwork, was really hands-on and I think gave us a good idea of what working in the field would actually be like. In terms of the makeup of the classes, it was kind of a mix. The overall School of Engineering, I think, was maybe about 50% women, which was really awesome. And I made a lot of good friends with people that I've met in those engineering classes. Once you get down to mechanical engineering, it ends up being about 10 to 1, so a little bit a little bit less diverse, which is fine. I think I knew that going in, and so it was good to come in with open eyes and not expect, sparkly rainbows and the likes from my classes. The computer science program was honestly a 50-50 split of uh, female students, and that was a nice break from my more male-dominated ME classes, but both were really valuable.
And do you think those differences in makeup shaped how um, you felt in your education or how you experienced it?
Yeah, it's definitely a game that I used to play with some of my classmates. We would look like, oh, do we have more than 5 women in the class right now? Especially when you get down to like the labs and stuff. And I just learned to form really good communities with the women who I did meet in those classes. A lot of them I'm still friends with today, and it's just really nice to have someone that you can talk to about your experiences and I think that made getting through the classes a lot easier. But in terms of the coursework, it was nice to just feel like any other student most of the time. Once you get into the flow of things and really just get to do the work, you can build up the confidence a lot, and it helps.
And so my understanding is that your specialty is in controls. How did you get into this area of engineering?
Yeah, so I heard about controls a little bit during my senior year at Oregon State. I worked on the Formula car team, which was a really great experience. And I actually got to do some of the controls development for their electric vehicle. So that was kind of what first turned me on to, okay, doing some more of the programming side with the mechanical work. And then right out of college, I got a job at an OEM, original equipment manufacturer in um, the beverage industry. And I was just doing mechanical work and I liked it, but there was something missing. I always wanted to know, like, okay, I'm building all of these things, but how do I control them? How do I take the next step? And the opportunity with Concept opened up, and I haven't looked back from control since.
That's awesome. And I also saw that you've worked on a variety of food manufacturing projects in the Pacific Northwest. Are there any in particular that really stand out that you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, we have a lot of great food producers in the Pacific Northwest. I'm really proud of all of them. In particular, I've been to some cheese factories that were really awesome to see just how they are taking all of this raw milk and turning it into product that I see on the shelves and buy every day, you know. Um, Working with them, it's really interesting to see the production side, which we don't do as much as a systems integrator, of understanding like when do they have a lot of product moving through. Apparently, cheese is very popular as a Christmas gift. I learned that lesson the hard way, trying to do a shutdown around the Christmas holiday. Turns out they have to move a lot of cheese then. Lesson learned. Uh, some of our other clients have been in the potato production industry, and it's really eye-opening to see the scale that these companies are working at. Like I've never seen more potatoes in my life. I didn't know that that many potatoes like existed in a room at one time. And then figuring out what to do with them was a whole other ordeal. So learning how to move that much product and how these huge processes work just kind of in the background of our day-to-day life was really awesome. So I love going to new plants and just seeing how they're kind of supporting our entire food industry in the States.
And so, of course, in general terms, can you talk a little bit about the controls work that you did in either of those plants or on either of those projects?
Yeah, of course. So a lot of the work we do as controls is retrofits. So taking hardware that maybe you can't find any replacements parts for anymore, or nobody knows how to program this unique little microcontroller, and figuring out how to recreate all the functionality, but package it in a way that people can actually maintain and continue to work on moving into the future. So a lot of the controls work is just taking an existing system that the process works great or all of the mechanical hardware is sound, but they just need new servos, a new controller, maybe integrate it into their existing plant, tie it into a SCADA system where they just want more visibility to the rest of the plant. Um, that kind of stuff is a lot of times our bread and butter. So I really enjoy doing those because when our customers own the process that they have, it makes it really a really strong partnership for us to come in and say, okay, well, let's just make it a little bit better, make your operators' lives a little bit easier day to day. And um, those usually end up being some of my favorites. The potato plant actually was a greenfield project. So that one was completely new, all from scratch, all new equipment. And it was really fascinating to see them almost design the equipment as we went. So they had all of the mechanical designs laid out and they had built similar factories before, but anytime you put two things together, they don't quite line up. And so figuring out that kind of troubleshooting on the fly. And, they're adding in new IO as we're realizing, oh man, this process is a little more complicated than we thought, is always a really fun challenge to tackle.
For sure. Anytime you get an opportunity to work on a greenfield, I'm sure that's very fun and exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, have you worked on projects in other manufacturing sectors? And if so, how does that compare to food manufacturing?
Yeah, so our other biggest areas are probably aerospace manufacturing, and really everything that supports that down to parts, welding, painting processes. Um, they usually just have very different production schedules. They're not dependent on when their raw product comes in, and so it's, you know, uh, very dependent on labor, and a lot of the processes can just take, different amounts of time. It's a lot of overlap in the controls hardware, but the actual processes are completely different. So I love learning about, especially in aerospace, like how are they just riveting two pieces of metal together? There's a million ways to do it, and some of them are wrong.
So, given your experience in many different types of manufacturing, what could we do to help support hiring and diversity and equity?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. So I think that a lot of these plants have diversity in their in their employee base, it's really just about supporting those individuals and giving them the resources they need if they're interested in something like controls or maintenance or leadership, management, something like that. I think giving people the opportunities is always a great option because they know the processes, they know what it takes to get the job done. And so giving them those tools and resources can really make for the strongest candidate you have in a role.
And so, building on this idea of support, do you have an example of when you felt particularly supported in your role or in your career? Or alternatively, do you have any suggestions for how maybe you could be more supported in your role or career?
Yeah, that is another good question. So honestly, my entire time at Concept, I felt very well supported. It's really just the team of engineers that we have here, and I know that each one of them has my back if I have a random problem or I'm missing a cable, even as something as small as that. Like it is nice to have a team of people that you can really rely on, and so in that way, I feel really supported. No complaints here.
And in my conversations with other engineers, many of them have benefited from a mentor throughout their career. Have you benefited from a mentor, or have you been able to mentor someone yourself?
Yeah, so I've had a couple of different mentors. It usually depends on like what I'm doing day to day. I'll try to pick someone who's best suited. I've been really lucky at Concept to be part of the MECOP internship program, which I also participated in at Oregon State. And I've been a mentor to, I believe, two of the interns that we've had at Concept in the past few years. So that's a really fun experience to take someone who's in like the first 6 months to year of their career, like actually sitting down and doing work and helping them kind of figure out, okay, what is important for me to learn right now? How can I develop my skills and that problem solving mindset as an engineer? So it's really fun to work with these fresh grads and soon to be graduates and see where their brains are at and what they're interested in.
And so with that, with the work with the new or soon to be grads, what advice do you have to someone who's looking to get into engineering or even the food industry?
Yeah, if they're looking to get into the food industry specifically, get used to washing your hands a lot. That's a big one. You will get used to washing your hands every time you cross onto the plant floor. But from an engineering perspective, it's really important to learn to trust your engineering gut, learning how to make those decisions. And I think even a new engineer can notice when something's wrong and when something feels off, even if you don't have the knowledge or the background or the expertise to articulate it. I think being able to say, hey, I think we should have someone else take a look at this. I think something's going on here. Maybe this process isn't quite right. Maybe we're not quite up to the safety standards we said we were going to do. I always try to encourage our interns when they speak up and are like, hey, I'm not really sure. I saw this. Maybe it's not a thing, but I think really trusting your gut and encouraging that openness of something's wrong, let's fix it.
Do you have any strategies or recommendations for building that confidence to be able to speak up and speak your mind about something that you see or something that you think might be off, like you were saying?
Yeah. I think part of that is also not micromanaging these new grads, like giving them space to look at code and look at mechanical designs and let them think about how things will fail and how things will go wrong.
So, as you continue on in your career, is there anything that you'd like to see happen as far as supporting women in engineering or even in promoting automation or anything like that?
Yeah. I love seeing communities of women in engineering just come together and really support each other. I think I've been a part of multiple groups in my life, and each one of them has given me the opportunity to meet like really interesting women in engineering, and none of us are doing exactly the same thing. So I think just talking with more people, continuing to join groups and do things like this are all really helpful.
I would agree with you on that point. I've had the pleasure of talking to very many brilliant and intelligent and exceptional women engineers, and so I'm very happy to have made your acquaintance in that space as well. Um, I think those are all the questions I had for you. Is there anything else that you'd like to touch on that we didn't already discuss?
Nothing that I can think of.
Well, perfect. Thanks so much, Dharma, for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.